Now, how long does it take to make fossils? Let's talk about that for a moment. Here's an interesting statement from some evolutionists, no friends of creation or the Bible. They say in a book on dinosaurs, fossilization is a process that can take anything from a few hours to millions of years. Now stop right there and think. One of the things you have to do as you read what evolutionists say is you need to read the sentence and then you need to back up and read it again more slowly. How do they know that fossilization can take millions of years? Has any geologist lived long enough to observe that as empirical observational science? Well, of course not. Has the science of geology been in existence long enough that you could string together overlapping careers of scientists so they could all share their notebooks and say, we've observed empirically that it takes millions of years for a fossil to form? No, the science of geology has only been in existence about 200 years. So how do they know it takes millions of years for fossilization to happen? The answer is they don't. It's an assumption. It's a belief. Well, how do they know it takes a few hours? Now we're on to empirical observational science. They go on to say, the amount of time that it takes for a bone to become completely permineralized is highly variable. If the groundwater is heavily laden with minerals in solution, the process can happen rapidly. Modern bones that fall into mineral springs can become permineralized within a matter of weeks. Well, now Noah's flood was 4,000 years ago. And what would we have with Noah's flood? We would have groundwater heavily laden with minerals as the land is being ripped up and pulverized.
Welcome back to Truth Seekers. So fossils happen that rapidly, within a matter of weeks, they said, if the conditions are right. So that we know, that's science. You know, Newton said science is observation. You see what happens and you replicate it in the laboratory. Well, we see the fossilization happening in a very short period of time. How do they even know it could happen over 1 million years to have something fossilized? You know, the more I think about it, it doesn't make any sense, actually. Well, it could. You know, I guess it could with more minerals being brought in slowly and slowly and slowly. But you're not going to get what we're going to see in the next section of film, which is one fish swallowing another fish. Both are fossilized. So the whole thing happened so rapidly that the fish didn't have time, the bigger fish didn't have time to totally ingest the second fish, and you see the half of the second fish sticking out of its mouth, and you get another one with a fish giving birth. And we talked about that last week, and we've talked about that in the past before. You know, this whole concept of fossilization happening so rapidly, a few years ago, nobody knew that. No, you know, they would have scoffed at that idea. But slowly but surely, all these evolutionary and long time period viewpoints are being overturned. And so we've shown many different things on this program. We talk about the fact that there's a war going on. There's a spiritual world. And Jesus talks about this person, Satan, and 1/3 of the angels falling with him. And I think they've got to hurry things up and get it finished pretty quickly, because the scientific evidence is going increasingly against them as time goes on. And this stuff is not widely disseminated. People don't know about this because the media is solidly behind the evolutionary viewpoint for the most part. You just don't see it. You don't see any of this stuff that we've been showing for years. But it's going to slowly get out there as time goes on. And I don't think Satan likes that idea, because it's going to point to the fact that there is a spiritual war, and the Bible was right scientifically all along, and the evolutionary scientists have been wrong about so many more things.
Yeah, based on assumptions. And the creation scientists are basing all their information on observational study today and now. And so they're again, the viewpoints are pointing, you know, it's just that everything's being inferred in our scientific studies, Mike, to the Bible. It's pointing back to the Bible, and it's getting quicker and more and more and more as we look. You know, you look at, you know, the evidence Mount St. Helens gives us. You look at all the evidence that's going around the world, the scientific evidence and catastrophic things going on, and when you really start studying it scientifically, it's like, wow, this is exactly what the Bible's been talking about for, 3,500 years.
But people still have to have an open mind. Like he pointed out, you can look at the same data, but if you're stuck on the assumption, that original assumption that this is millions of years, yeah, they have to be open to be objective to say, well, what are we really seeing here? And they're often not. I was going to mention too that we've shown before that the fact that just recently in the last few years they found dinosaurs with traces of hemoglobin and fleshly ligaments. Now, these dinosaurs, they say, are over 60 million or more years old. There's no way that science can accept the existence of fleshy tissue lasting anywhere near 100,000 years, let alone 62 million years. I don't think I said billion. If I did, I stand corrected.
No, you said billion.
Million, 62 million years or something like that. There's no way you're going to get traces of hemoglobin, soft tissue. But if you get fossilization, as it said there, within minutes, hours, certainly you can get a whole, in turbulence and everything like that, and the right mineralization, you get a whole dinosaur fossilized in a very short period of time. No time to decay like it would normally decay in actual life, and not even be fossilized. So,
well, I want to throw in the evidence with that, Mike, is I believe they just found another dinosaur in Australia, and we're finding dinosaurs deposited throughout the world. Now, how does that happen? To me, it can only happen through that catastrophic event where you have this wash tub flood going on, and then as it recedes, it's just depositing wherever it's ended up in the wash tub.
Yeah, well, the evidence is really with the wash tub is you get many broken bones of different species all lumped together.
And then dispersed all over.
Yeah, and we're going to see that in areas that they're not known to be in this next section of film. Here in the U.S., camels and, a rhinoceros, all together with thousands of other bones all jumbled up. Camels, rhinoceroses, as far as we know, they were never here. But here they are in the United States.
Now, how did that happen?
Well, if you have a worldwide flood, it would explain it.
But if there was no such thing, then how did it happen?
The only thing they could say is that, well, obviously there must have been camels and rhinoceroses here in the United States living at one point in time.
Based on what? An assumption?
Just based on the fossils, that there they are. But, it's based on,
we're coming down to the heart of the issue, Mike. What are you going to believe in? You going to believe in what the evidence is showing, or are you going to believe in what we've been told based on nothing but assumptions? Now, to me, one's really blind faith. When they talk about, what we believe in God the Creator as being blind faith, but yet evidence is backing our view up, and there's no evidence backing up that other view.
Well, what people are taught, what I grew up, the reason I believed in evolution, one of them was that the scientists said it was so, and they had these radiometric dating clocks and everything. But I didn't know that there are many other clocks that point against there being millions of years. In fact, I didn't know that there were assumptions behind the radiometric clocks that are big assumptions, that nothing's changed, that that's the way it started. You just don't know for sure with that, but they've done recent studies, and we talked about this in our last program, that showed that there are carbon-14, for instance, which is one method of dating. The fact that carbon-14 should no longer exist shouldn't be in rocks like diamonds or something like. No, actually, that's helium, I think.
No, it's C14. They're finding some on diamonds now.
Yeah,
and that should be impossible according to the old Earth.
Oh, okay. Diamonds would have been fossilized from what originally?
Coal.
Coal? Okay. See, I know they say, diamonds are 2.5 billion years old, buried miles down in the earth. Mm-hmm. And so they say that they're part of the, some of the oldest rocks we have.